the school, we just lost our superintendent. We're going to call this meeting the school committee to order. Our first item is administrative business. We have a calendar up on the screen. Thank you. There are a number of school committee meetings over the next number of weeks, mostly subcommittee meetings, but there are some important meetings on building projects. There's a devotion project community meeting on June 8th. There is a joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen, it's the third one on there, on the 9th school, which will be an update on the progress on that project and the plan for the summer. There'll be then a community meeting, sorry, I'm skipping around, on June 14th on the 9th elementary school. And that will be an opportunity for the architects who are doing the site selection study to get input from the public. So anyone who is interested in that, we really do encourage attendance on the 14th. And the 13th is the high school expansion community meeting. Again, that one will be with the people who did the high school study. It'll be a summary of the work done over the last, actually more than a year on the high school study and the next steps on that. And that there'll be for both the 13th and the 14th, actually the 8th, the 13th, and the 14th, there'll be lots of opportunity for dialogue and engagement and comments and Q&A with the community. So each of those three I highly recommend. And the graduations are always exciting to see them up there. Any other additions to the calendar? Okay. We have a consent agenda. There are a number of things. There are minutes. There's signature authority for the summer months. There are some out-of-state student trips that are upcoming. One is the Brookline High School Boys Crew trip to Mercer, New Jersey in June, next week, or June 9th, I guess. An out-of-country student trip to for the high school music department to Spain in February of 2017. An out-of-country student trip for the high school, the Latin trip to Italy in April of 2017, and the establishment of the Karen Cuskin-Smith Scholarship. So do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion, is there a second? Second, Ms. Scotto. Any discussion? It's a consent agenda, but.
Yep, I was just wondering if you could describe for us the Karen Cuskin-Smith Scholarship?
Yes. It is being established by family, friends, and colleagues who, on behalf of Ms. Cuskin-Smith, who is retiring after more than 30 years in education, most of it here in Brookline. And the scholarship will be awarded to an academically qualified student with demonstrated financial need who demonstrates her qualities of dedication to education, empathy, a compassion for others, and a sincere desire to have a positive impact on the lives of all students. It's a very generous contribution.
Thank you, that's lovely. Thanks. I assume we will be thanking profusely.
We will be thanking her.
And just, can I ask just one more question? It's my impression anyway that all of these trips have happened in the past. There's no new trip here, is there?
I think there are any.
They've all been approved by the IB, yeah.
No, I know, but
Are there any new trips?
but there are no trips new to the school committee.
I don't believe so.
Right, that's what I thought. Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, any other discussion? All right, all those in favor? It is unanimous. Okay, our next agenda item is welcoming back our students from China, which is always exciting. Is Mr. Lantos here? Mr. Lantos? This is always one of the highlights of our year. We're excited to hear.
I guess we're not the only ones here tonight. And any parents, if you're back there? You know, I said this last time we were here, but I think the more we do this work from year to year, I just want to acknowledge the parents who give of themselves during the fall semester to host the Chinese students who are with us in the fall, and then tearfully give their students up to the Gaoxin School for 4 months. They just came back on Sunday. This is the 16th year of our exchange, so we look forward to hosting next year again. But again, I just want to acknowledge publicly and thank the parents for all of what they do. for the last.
Is everyone in, or are there still people in the hallway for this one?
Good. Hold on. You're not, okay. Hold on. So no one has worked harder and longer, 24/7, for the last 4 months than the teacher who we sent over, physics teacher Elsbeth Leslie, and she's going to introduce, say a few words, and then introduce several of the students who have some words for you.
All right. Good evening, members of the school committee and superintendent. Let me start by thanking you for making this exchange possible and introducing the students. We have seniors Watson Njoku, Gabby Jablon, juniors Kat Welch, Jack Reed, Tajay Slaughter, and sophomores Rachel Percy, Sam Russo, and Sean Higgins. It's been a life-changing experience for all the students and myself. As a teacher going abroad with 8 students and sharing the experience with them is beyond rewarding. It has changed my views on the world and education and helped me to grow both as an individual and an educator. Being able to observe the educational system and structure in another country has helped me to expand my thinking on what is most important in our classrooms. It's given me new inspiration, and I will take this to my classroom in future years. As an educator, it was a great experience to be able to help students learn so much about another culture, to be in a place where so much learning happens outside the classroom. We were able to learn about the culture and food through our host families and had many learning moments about how to negotiate situations that arose due to cultural differences. We were able to learn so much about China and its people. Yesterday, one of my students said, "I didn't realize how amazing and life-changing this exchange was until it was all over." This speaks to the lasting impact that it has on our lives and how much each student has grown because of this exchange. Thank you for seeing the importance in the China exchange and continuing to make it a priority. It has been the most rewarding experience in my teaching career to date. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Tajay Slaughter. So when I was younger, I always heard a lot about China, but I never imagined myself going there. And now I'm just finished living there for 4 months, and I just find this opportunity to be so amazing. I want to say thank you to the superintendent and school committee and everyone who makes this exchange possible. I'm very grateful for all that you do for this program. I feel very fortunate to be a part of something so special. Because of this trip, I've been able to forge connections and relationships with people from a whole nother side of the world. This trip has made me more aware of the lives that people are living outside of my own. They go to work, love, and care for each other just like we would do here. This trip has taught me a lot of life lessons, one of which is that although life may be tough at the moment, you must continue to stay positive and things will get better. An example of this was when I was having communication issues with my host family. This issue was resolved towards the end, and I was able to form a strong bond. I definitely will be seeing my Chinese family sometime in the near future. Another lesson I have learned is to be grateful for everything I have. I really learned to appreciate the things I have in America. I think this trip has made me a more strong and independent person. I've also been able to make connections with people that if not for this trip, I probably would have never known. I'm very happy that I've been able to make all these relationships with these 8 people, and including Miss Leslie. I didn't expect once I signed up to take a part of this amazing adventure, I didn't know what to expect, but I'm very glad that I signed up. Thank you again.
Good evening, and thank you for your time. My name is Rachel Percy, but for the past 4 months, I've been called Yang Li by all that I befriended in China. What I'd like to first acknowledge is that Brookline holds a very diverse community, and it amazed me how even within a group of as little as 8 people, they were able to showcase this diversity. I remember looking at our group in the beginning and wondering how in the world we would all get along, but now it's sad to think I won't be spending every day with this group of crazy yet fantastic people. They all mean a lot to me now, and it still amazes me how close we've become. Thank you to the school committee for supporting a program that fosters these kinds of relationships and proves how stark diversity can lead to unity. Moving on, I love that I can return saying I have a home in China. This trip has changed China from not only being a part of my past, but now a large part of who I am now and what I hope for in the future. My host parents really want me to return, and everyone that said farewell to us hoped that we'd get the chance to come back and continue our studies of China. I'm very excited for the continuation of this program. I look back at all the group photos from previous years, and I feel a tie with them. We all went to Xi'an, attended the same school, explored the same streets, visited the same famous sites, and although we don't all know each other, each of us were students who took the courage to apply for a 4-month study abroad in China. I am so thankful to be a part of this legacy and the CHEX community. I want more kids who have the passion and bravery to be in China away from their families for 4 months to get the chance to do so. This is an incredible experience that makes Brookline the amazing and special town that it is, and it couldn't be possible without your support.
I've wanted to go on this program since I was 11 years old. I had been learning Chinese since kindergarten and started to wonder how I was going to use this skill that I was developing in my life. At this time, my sister was a sophomore when she went to China, and it changed her life. She came back a changed girl, more socially comfortable, more independent, and she learned how to speak to strangers and in front of large groups. The trip eventually inspired my sister to study Chinese in college, consider majoring in East Asian studies, and to work in Beijing. Then, a few years later, my brother got into the program, and we hosted a lovely Chinese boy named Ted. Ted and I were very close, and he further inspired me to want to go to China. When my brother returned from China, he too had changed. He was more independent, open, and understanding. After hearing about his amazing experiences and adventures, I knew that I had to apply to go to China the next year. After I was accepted, we hosted for a third time. After hosting my own host brother, I felt ready to go to China and understand everything I had learned from my siblings and from my host siblings. Now that I am back, I know I am more opinionated, more understanding of different cultures, more independent, and more experienced talking to different kinds of people. I was able to bond with my siblings on our common memories and experiences. I am now able to share these lessons and cultural differences with the Brookline community to work towards making Brookline a place with more global understanding. Thank you for making my family what it is today, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to make Brookline a more diverse community.
Let me just briefly say finally that we know a lot about, over the 16 years of our exchange, what impact the exchange program has on our students. We don't know quite as much about what impact it has on the Chinese students who spend a whole semester here. And although we do go back occasionally, Grant Rode, I know, who's gone as a steering committee member, and now Karen Wang, active Driscoll parent, and I are considering a trip next year. We've been in discussion, I know, with some of you in hopes of trying to put together a trip to not only see the other side, but also to learn a little bit more about what impact I know that we have as a public school system in the United States has on the Chinese students when they return. So I hope some of you might consider joining us on a trip to Xi'an sometime next year. Thank you.
Hello. I just wanted to share with you some of the observations that the Chinese students and teachers spoke with me about in Chinese before they left, which was they got used to freedom of speech, and they were in pain about having to return back to the way they had to behave and had to speak in public, and even amongst friends when they return. And that was the most painful thing that they had to do. So that, I feel like that seed that we've planted in all of these kids over there and their teachers throughout the years is really the most powerful thing that our country can share with that country is freedom of speech. Thank you.
Thank you. Sometimes we have school committee members who want to make comments. Ms. Scotto.
I'm always tempted to make a comment about the China exchange program. First of all, I want to thank all of the adults who make this possible. If it weren't for the parents, the teacher, you, Steve, Karen, the checks board, this wouldn't happen, and it's quite an amazing program. In terms of the students, what I wanted to say is, you were here last fall, and you had no idea what was ahead of you. You had a vision of something that you thought would happen, but you know now how different your vision was from what really happened. And I think it's important to recognize that, first of all, coming back, it must feel like something's not right here. I'm in the wrong place. It takes that kind of getting yourself back into the world in which you grew up is not easy, because you have changed. You have learned to navigate a whole different world. It isn't like the US and China. It's not the way you see it. People's cultures are different, and you do things and you end up thinking, oh my gosh, I've done the wrong thing, I've offended somebody. And you learn to live with discomfort, and you learn to deal with the discomfort and change your behavior based on the culture. That is such an important life lesson, because even if you think about the diversity in Brookline, look at the variety of cultures here, and think about the fact that there are many people here who have grown up in a different situation. They have accommodated themselves to life in the US, but it really helps to have somebody who understands that. You have learned a great deal about your own capacity to change, and that's another important life lesson. You change throughout your life. I'm not the same person I was when I went to China back in 90 for the first time. And I'm not the same person that I was when I was your age. You grow, you evolve, you change. And all of these experiences help to make you into a person who is thoughtful, a person who understands that you're not the center of the world, and that people all over the world live in different ways, have different patterns, different customs, different behaviors. They're all valuable. And that's really a lesson that's important for us in this country to learn today. So congratulations on a good trip. Spread the word. I hope we have another group going next year.
We do. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lentos, and we'll be in touch about next year's trip.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, we have subcommittee and liaison reports. Unfortunately, Ms. Stram is unable to be here this evening. The only thing in terms of finance, Ms. Dunn might have a report, but the only thing that's probably worth noting is town meeting last week passed the budget by a vote of 214 to 1, I believe. And so we have our budget for next year. Are there any other finance updates that anyone wishes to make? Okay. There were questions on town meeting about could people see the budget in advance of town meeting, and so folks understood that the advisory committee had been through the budget multiple times over the course of this past spring, and both at advisory committee meetings and at school subcommittee meetings. And so once they understood that, then what they asked for was the link to the budget. And so Mr. Pollock is going to send out an email, I think. Oh, you did? Oh, it went out. Oh, wonderful. Okay. So basically letting folks know that the link to the budget's about 200 pages long. So I think sending out the link to the budget makes sense. And then if people want paper copies, they can always request those. Is that basically right?
Right. That information about requesting them was also in the email that went out to TMMA today.
Terrific. Ms. Stone?
I haven't seen that email, and maybe it said this as well, but I thought the point was well taken by the members who said that when the budget itself is actually published for our review, for public review, prior to, I think that's always substantially before town meeting in May, that's the time to send out some kind of notice to town meeting members that if they want a paper copy, I know there are lots of town meeting members who are not going to print it out and have trouble looking at it online. So I think if we can go to a regular practice of making it available, making sure that we have the hard copies for those who want them ahead of time, that would be the right thing to do.
Because we approve the budget, a month and a half advance of town meeting, and that's when the advisory committee, I mean, I think we can also send out the list of public meetings, both budget forums that the superintendent holds, but also the advisory committee sort of hearings on the budget, so that maybe there's more robust attendance next year.
Yeah.
So I think there were 4 or 5.
Well, we've never had robust attendance at our public meetings on
No,
the
no,
budget.
but there were 5 public meetings. I'm not
Right.
sure there was robust attendance, and it
Right.
might be because people didn't pay it. So anyway, good. So better next year. All right. Anything else on finance?
Can I say a word?
Please.
I've just had the opportunity to experience my first Brookline school budget process and Brookline town meeting. And I've been involved with school budgets for over 30 years. And I just feel compelled to publicly state how impressed I am with the town of Brookline's handling of the financial management. The town-school partnership does a terrific job representing the town. There's excellent communication, there's excellent cooperation between the town and the school side. In many towns, there seems to be a tug and pull between the school budget and the town budget. But in Brookline, the partnership is so strong and so effective, it really helps the process and really brings about a budget that's fair for all concerned, the town and the schools. I'm very, very impressed with your process. Job well done.
Thank you. And thank you to Ms. Dunn for delivering a magnum opus this year. It's always a big job, and we appreciate that. And to the entire staff, Michael and Beth and everyone. So thank you. All the principals, coordinators. Capital. Mr. Pollack.
The capital subcommittee has not met, so I've got a brief scheduling update. The capital subcommittee is planning to meet on the 10th, but we're looking at another date for that, and it may get adjusted. It may happen on the 13th, but we just haven't confirmed that with all the members of the committee. But the capital subcommittee will be meeting soon. There was a robust kind of update meeting on the ninth school site selection that had plenty of time for Q&A from the community. That happened at Pierce Auditorium last week and was very well attended. There is I was late, and so I apologize for being late, but these meetings on the 8th, the joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen to talk about the ninth school site is going to happen upstairs next week. And then on the 13th, there's going to be a meeting at the high school, including some time for community input on the high school expansion. So all of those meetings. Dr. Connolly, do you have anything to tell us about the kind of wrapping up of construction on the Webster Street Lower Devotion building? I think people are curious about how that's going.
I'd be happy to. In fact, the June 8th meeting we're having at Devotion Auditorium will report not only on the school construction project, but the update on 30 Webster Street. For the town audience and the audience here tonight, 30 Webster Street is the rented building that we're using as a temporary school site for 2 years during the construction phase. It's an 8-story former assisted living building that over the past 4 or 5 months has been transformed into a temporary school. This past week, David, we started having visitations with the grade level teams. For the last several days, we've had a grade level, one grade level at a time with specialists involved. Teachers have been very, very pleased with what they saw. We're on schedule. We believe that by the end of this month, we'll be able to start moving in. The plan is to move all the furniture and all the equipment at the current Lower Devotion School into this site. The last week in June, the first week in July, we're on schedule. And our next challenge is to start working on the outside. They're just about ready to finish the outside of the building. That'll give us access to the parking lot so we can refinish the parking lot and try to develop some type of a small temporary playground in that parking lot facility. But the school's in excellent condition, and we hope by late August, perhaps the last week in August, once we have the furniture in, the teachers have had a chance to work in their classrooms, we would have an open house for the parents and the students to see the school before school starts. I'm very excited about 30 Webster Street because each floor will have will be a grade level, K through 4. So they'll have their own grade level community with all their support staff and specialists on each floor. So it ought to be a very, very effective instructional facility for the next 2 years. But the most important thing is, by moving to the 30 Webster Street site, we've been able to reduce the construction time for the Devotion project from 45 months to 25 months. And that'll mean that we'll be moving into the new Devotion school, we hope, in September 2018, 2 years ahead of schedule. So I think it's really an excellent move, trying to get all the students off site during the construction schedule.
And that 25-month construction period starts on July 11th in JFK Crossing. That's when demolition officially begins. There's about a 3-week period of finishing up the move-out and all the teachers and all the furniture and everything getting out and turning over the building to the contractors, and then 2 solid years of construction for our community, but with an incredible school at the end of it. Anything? That's, I think, the report on Capitol.
Okay. Thank you. Curriculum. Okay, so our next agenda item is a subcommittee report on curriculum. Unfortunately, Ms. Charlevsky is out of the country and she's not here to give it. But one of the major topics that we discussed was testing. And since that is part of the superintendent's report, do you want to just move that piece now to give everybody who wasn't there the update on what we discussed?
I'd be happy to.
Okay.
And going into town meeting last week, we were told that there'd be a number of questions about the budget in the school programs, and there were very, very worthwhile questions, and we had a very good, rich discussion about many aspects of the school program. Surprisingly, the testing did not come up, and we were hoping it would, because we had some very interesting information that Dr. Fisher-Mueller put together. And I'm just looking at her notes right now, and the question was a concern about the amount of required testing that takes place here in Brookline. And so what we tried to do is put together a report that would identify the required testing in all grades in Brookline, and here's what we came up with. Now, we realize there are other optional tests that teachers in grade levels in different schools might do, but town-wide, these are the required testing programs. We have the literacy-based assessment program, the BAS, and that takes place in the elementary grades, K to 5 and 6 to 8, and to some degree. And that requires the teachers to do a 30 to 40-minute assessment in the early part of the year and towards the mid-year to the end of the year. And the drawback, but the concern about that is it requires each student to be individually tested, so that is a time constraint, and that's in K to 5, and 6 to 8 does some BAS testing. In the area of mathematics, we have a beginning of the year assessment and an end of the year assessment, and in math it's a full test, a full class test for approximately 45 minutes. So there's a 45-minute assessment in the beginning of the year, at the end of the year, to measure the student's progress in mathematics. Beyond that, we have the typical state assessments, which for MCAS is grades 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 for math and ELA, and MCAS science is grades 5 and 8. And we also have access for all ELL students. DSE is now looking at the possibility of adding a social studies assessment sometime in the future. At this point, if you look at the 900-hour school academic year, the amount of time that the students are involved in assessments, both state assessments and our local assessments, it's approximately 9 to 10 hours, or just about 1% of their instructional time during the school year is spent on assessments. And that's the students. The teachers, on the other hand, because of the BAS testing being so time demanding, requires the teachers to spend maybe 25 to 30 hours a year, which is closer to 3% of their instructional academic year. So at this point, those are the required assessments we have in Brookline. Many people say we're over-testing. We think it's realistic. It's tests that teachers make very good use of. It helps us do a better job at addressing the kids' needs. And it requires the students to, about 1% of their time and about 3% of the teachers' time. So that's where we are right now. If Jennifer wanted to add anything to that, that's about it, yeah.
Okay.
That's what we had planned to report at town meeting if we had been asked the question. And that's the update.
Okay. Any questions? There were a couple other things discussed in curriculum, but that was the main one. There were a number of questions from school committee members. Okay, we already had a robust discussion about this. Government relations, Ms. Stone.
Nothing much to report except the one thing, the one warrant article that the school committee had taken a formal position on and had public hearings on was on the sick leave, sick time, which was a repeat, as I think we discussed at school committee, of the November warrant article number 7. And it was once again defeated by town meeting last night by a very close vote, however, of 90-some opposed and 80-some in favor, so it was a very, very close vote, but it was defeated.
Any questions? Okay, policy review. Dr. Jackson?
Policy does not have an update for tonight. We are meeting tomorrow from 8 to 9:30, and we'll continue to take up our student fees, fines, and charges policies, financial assistance policy, and USDA policy. And we'll also hopefully take up issues related to our bullying, safe schools, and discriminatory harassment policies. So that's tomorrow.
Any questions? All right. Additional liaisons. We seem to be slowing down for the end of the year. We did have a wonderful breakfast, evening, with CPAC, evening, not breakfast, evening with CPAC last night. It was about 2.5 hours. There were probably about 40 parents. The incoming superintendent, Andrew Bott, and just many, many people who were expressing thoughts, questions, concerns, reflections, observations, priorities, and it was a very rich Q&A. I think there were notes from that which may get synthesized. Is that right? I'm looking at our CPAC liaison. Yes, okay. So they'll be synthesized just to kind of summarize what were some of the themes from that. But it was a very productive and informative session for everyone involved. So that was it was terrific. Thank you for organizing that, Craig.
Susan, under additional updates, we had planned to give you an update on the water testing issue later on in the superintendent's report, but where we have such a large audience, if you'd like to take that up now, we could update you. Mary Ellen? Just to update the audience, we were notified today that in some isolated locations in our schools, we did have some lead findings in the water. And Mary Ellen will identify that and give us an update on what protocols are being put in place to address that issue. Mary Ellen?
Thank you. This morning, the Brookline Water and Sewer Department or Division received an email from the MWRA for two items out of 16, but only 16 out of 32 that were taken last week had lead levels that were above the standard. And the occurrence of those was one faucet at Baker School and a water fountain on the first floor of the high school. So this morning, soon after.
United Arts Building.
In the United Arts Building, sorry. All other testing of that 16 set of samples, which I'm still trying to get information on where those samples are, will be forthcoming. So this morning we pulled together a town response team that we have for monitoring school water quality that was started in the summer, fall, to attend to the needs of Old Lincoln, as Old Lincoln has had lead levels above the standard for a number of years. So this morning we undertook at Baker shutting off all of this is in caution because we don't actually have, we have one test for one faucet in each building and one test for one faucet at Baker and one test at the high school for a water fountain. So understand that we responded to one test. At Baker, we turned the water fountains off. We instituted the cooking protocol that we've been using at Old Lincoln. All before lunch was served. We were over there about 9:30, 10 o'clock this morning. And the Baker staff was very, hats off to them, very great to work with, very responsive. Got some good questions after we made an announcement from the principal made an announcement, got some sort of immediate feedback and said, oh, we didn't think of that, and sort of made some real-time corrections. So we appreciate the immediate feedback that was provided to finish out the protocol. A memo to the Brookline, to Baker families and staff went out roughly about 5 o'clock this evening. It was held so that the high school letter would also go at the same time. That was also done about 5 o'clock this evening. So Baker will be undergoing additional testing by the Brookline Water and Sewer Department to determine sort of what our issue is, and is it as, and Baker had not been, we're getting the test results of what the history is for each of our buildings. So there's more, everybody wants to know what's the history, that's all getting assembled and will be put together by the Brookline Water and Sewer Division. With regards to the high school, the protocol we put in place is to shut off all the water fountains in the UAB building. They are, water fountains in every building have a service that's very different and separate from classroom sinks and or bathroom sinks. There was another, we did follow up with MWA and the other sample in that building. That sample came out fine under the levels. What we did though is, because that sample was taken in the culinary arts program, we said, hey, this is actually an interesting teachable moment for students. So I had a quick meeting with Dave Ford this afternoon and gave him the protocol for the cooking and consumption at Baker and Old Lincoln, and he's going to discuss that with students tomorrow. We've also made arrangements tomorrow for both buildings. Well, for Baker, water will be delivered, bottled water will be delivered in dispensers and placed throughout the building. For the UAB building, water dispensers will be placed only in the culinary arts program because if they, as a classroom material, so if they actually want to engage and actually try the protocol, they will actually have bottled water and sort of the tools that are currently in use in our district to emulate that. Deb Holman, the headmaster, will be making an announcement tomorrow morning for the high school in terms of what the protocols will be for the UAB building in terms of accessing water for drinking. And Mary Brown, the principal at Baker, will continue the protocol that we have today. And tomorrow, which is another day, we get the next 16 samples back, so I could be in Groundhog's Day and do what I did today since 7:30. Hopefully we'll have all responses, hopefully we'll be clean tomorrow for the next 16 samples, but we may be putting other buildings kind of in the same mode. And both letters actually have web addresses for additional information, and I encourage the community to read those. Massachusetts has some of the more stringent water quality requirements than many states in the country. And in addition to that, I really want to thank the town's response team, which consists of the Director of Public Health and Human Services, Chief of Environmental Health, Water and Sewer Director. We've had an MWRA representative available to us, and Director of Public Buildings, and our School Director of Operations. So that's the team that meets and convenes. And with that, I'm sure there are a lot of questions, and we will have probably a more thorough update over the next 24, 48 hours.
Thank you. Ms. Dunn, questions? You have the letters in front of you that were sent to the Baker and the high school parents. Question?
No.
Okay. I mean, so first of all, thank you for jumping on this so quickly. Thank you to all the staff who jumped on this so quickly. In particular, thank you to Alan Balsam, because he's always such a terrific partner, and all the other people you named. I think it would be helpful to, as you said, sort of get maybe just the FAQ fact sheet about the testing history and when was the last time things were tested and what did it look like and how many things are tested and what are we doing going forward and all that sort of thing, to maybe just have a one-stop shop on the website for
The
people.
piece on testing is, just to clarify, is that the water is tested weekly for chloroform. It is not tested except within a 5-year window for lead and copper. And that is a request, it's not a requirement. The other public health piece of information to reduce community concerns is that the Department of Public Health for Brookline has not seen any spike or any level to be concerned about of lead in the pediatric lead testing for children. In fact, I believe, if I have my facts correct, which should be verified, is I believe Dr. Balson said that there was only one student or one child in the last 4 to 5 years, and there was a specific incident as to why that child tested high for lead. It wasn't because of water consumption and normal, consumption of food and water. So I think to allay the community's concerns, this is a concern, but it's not a broad-based health concern where we're seeing rising levels of lead levels in our children.
Very good. Questions?
I know that the response team is going to develop a plan, and I guess can we assume that the buildings where these positive tests resulted will get more robust testing right away across the building at the UAB and Baker?
Yes, so part of the timeline was that in January, the Mass DEP sent out their request to remind school districts and water departments that they have a 5-year review request of lead and copper testing. When the water fountains and faucets in the city of Boston started to appear with lead levels, the state Mass DEP and DESE jumped in with trying to put a grant together. Town Administrator Mel Kleckner called our team together and said, okay, are we going to apply for these grants? What's the status? What are we doing? And so on that meeting, we decided we were going to just forge ahead and not wait for the grant. So we partnered with MWRA to do the testing for us. Because there's only $2 million for 351 cities and towns. And the requirements are 10 tests per building per year is what the request is, which is a lot. So we partnered with MWRA to get our tests done as quickly as possible. So the tests were pulled last week, and we got the first round today. We'll get the second round tomorrow. So the next step is for the Brookline Water and Sewer Division to do additional extensive testing in both Baker and the UAB building, and that will, I'll know tomorrow when that's going to happen. We try to time it on Mondays because water needs to stand for a period of time. There's a whole bunch I've learned about pipes and water that I didn't think I would ever learn, but I think that, so there is a plan in place and that will come out, that will be part of what comes out in the next 24 to 48 hours.
Stone?
I don't actually expect you to be able to answer this question, but is there information on the website? This part I do expect you to be able to answer. Is there information on the website about, for parents or students who may be concerned about their individual exposure over the last, at the places where lead was in fact found? I mean, I understand that we don't have a spike, and that's very reassuring, but if somebody says, I drink from that water fountain all the time, what do I do to find out if
So-
I've been affected?
Well, that's actually something they need to do with their pediatrician or their doctor, because that is, that's the only way to tell. Again, because water needs to be stagnant for a period of time, so if water's been run, see, we take the samples are taken the first draw of the morning, first draw of the day, so by the end of the day, water has been flowing through it, so it's the testing is timed at the potential for the highest level.
Sure.
But as water runs through the systems and the pipes, that it doesn't occur.
Right.
You've got clean water right from the town's water supply. So I think we always would encourage individuals to consult their own physician. I will say in both letters, and including the information we gave to Lincoln, is a recommendation that parents teach their students and children to not drink from water faucets, because those are actually less clean than water fountains sometimes. So there's some advice in there for parents in terms of what they can do at home and sort of elsewhere and that's just about general health and public health.
Dr. Connolly, did you want to add something?
Rebecca, we'll work on that and try to get something on the website, a question and answer update for parents to go to.
That'd be great, thank you.
Any other questions? I know we're still in the first number of hours in this, so thank you for the response so far. Thank you for putting up more information as it becomes available. Okay. Any other liaisons or updates? The only other one I'll mention is this afternoon there was really a lovely ceremony honoring Dr. Fisher-Mueller and Dr. Schmuckler as a farewell to both of you. It was very hard. There were many people were trying not to get choked up as they talked about your extraordinary service, both of you, to the town and the students, and how lucky we are to have your vision and commitment and your leadership. And I think one of the things that kept coming up was how deeply both of you, each of you, cares about students front and center in all of your decisions. So anyway, we will miss you greatly. We're grateful for your willingness to transition so thoroughly and professionally, and everyone's just very excited for you going forward. So congratulations. And anyway, it was a very lovely event. There were many current school committee members there. There were 2 former chairs of the school committee who came back out of retirement because each of them wanted to speak at some length. So thank you for your forbearance for them as well. But many, many people spoke so beautifully. So thank you. Okay, if there's nothing else, we are on agenda item 4. We are 3.5 minutes late. Public comment. There should be a sign-up sheet. That's fine. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay. Okay, there's a sign-up sheet and a song. How nice. Okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Wait, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 people. So let's start at the top. Dan DeBowie. Yeah. Dan DeBowie. Okay. We so public comment. We tend to go 3 minutes when we have a long list. And public comment is the public's opportunity to comment on whatever it is that they would like to comment on. Sometimes it's a range of issues, sometimes it's specific issues. It is our policy and our practice not to comment on public comment, but if there are questions that are outstanding, you're more than welcome to email us, and we can address them hereafter. So. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm Dan Debowy. I'm a parent of a child who's going to enter the district in about a year. I realize you guys are not going to be able to answer this question tonight, but I will email you afterwards, so this is sort of a heads-up kind of public comment. Just as a point of clarification in the ongoing discussions about testing and evaluations, I have been curious as to whether the testing that is not mandated by the state, whether that data is shared in the aggregate, can be data mined by outside organizations or associations. So I'll email the committee members with that and find out if any of you are aware of that, because I think it would clarify the discussion greatly.
Thank you very much. Kate Bowditch? Bowditch, sorry.
Good evening. My name is Kate Bowditch. I'm a graduate of Brookline High School class of 1979. My 2 children are graduates of Lincoln School and Brookline High School, and I'm the partner of Robert Grant, an award-winning 20-year veteran teacher at Brookline High School. My comments tonight are focused on the issue of testing, assessment, data collection, and achievement gaps, as this seems to be a major sticking point in the current contract negotiations, and it's a hot topic on the Facebook pages. The rationale given for the growing data collection, testing, and assessment requirements is that they're necessary in order to identify and narrow various achievement gaps in our school population. In fact, teachers and administrators have been working on these issues for many years, and meaningful progress has been made. There's a trove of readily available information dating back to at least the early 2000s, much of which has been presented over the years to the school committee and other bodies, including parents, measuring the various achievement gaps, and there's ample data to measure the success rates of the numerous programs and initiatives that have been started in order to narrow these gaps. These include things like the African American Scholars Program, the Calculus Project, the Brookline High School Tutorial Program, and a great number of programs and efforts undertaken across the school system as part of the Equity Project. I'm sure you're familiar with them. All these programs include rigorous data collection and program modification based on the outcomes and the data that's collected. And this was all done without creating the kind of frustration from teachers that we now see. At Brookline High School, for example, progress has been measured using MCAS results, grades and grade point averages, SAT and ACT test results, advanced placement test scores, attendance data, course enrollment by level, involvement in extracurricular activities, National Honor Society induction numbers, dropout statistics, college enrollment, and more. All of these data points have been disaggregated by race, income, and special education needs, and the data show great progress. From 2004 to 2011, for example, just to grab one quick piece from out of these reports, the percentage of black students at Brookline High School achieving proficient and advanced scores on the English MCAS exam rose from 42% to 83%, and on the math test from 55% to 76%. The first cohort of graduates from the Calculus Project in 2014, these are students of color and from low-income backgrounds, had an average math SAT score more than 10% higher than the national average.
We're at time.
All right, well, this is just a smattering of the many reports showing data that has been collected and progress that is being measured. I had just a few more remarks, but I will stop there. Thank you very much.
I'd like to email them to us. We'd be happy to read them.
I will.
Okay, thank you so much. Dr. Wynn. Thank you. Dr. Wendershubo?
Thank you. Jessica Wendershubo, President of the BEU. It's an incredibly important and significant evening, even though it may not on the surface look that way, because I'm going to be able to share with you the dozens of names of town meeting members who have expressed their support for the efforts on the part of the teachers. Those names were collected absolutely 100% by parents. And this tells us that there's something very, very exciting going on in Brookline, and that is teachers and parents, town meeting members, have opened up a conversation about the direction of the schools in Brookline. And they are sharing information that comes from the bottom up, from the classrooms, from the literacy specialists who tell me they do not have time to do their job well, from the paraprofessionals who do not have the supports or the pay that allows them to do the critical work of filling in for so many teachers while they are in meetings. But it's exciting because there is something in the air and we are a part of it. So some of you may have seen that the 50 school committees in the state have already signed on to oppose the increase in charter schools. Why do they do that? They do it because they take away control from the community. They take away control by teachers. They do not support collective bargaining. And they basically are a top-down management model that most school committees are concerned about. They want more transparency. 50. We hope that this school committee will sign on to oppose lifting the charter cap. And we'll be looking for your position on that. Many school committees are signing resolutions, so we'll be, hopefully, I think you'll hear from that community. Secondly, your own, the professional organization, the school committee organization, has opposed the use of assessments and tests created in the district in the evaluation of teachers. We hope that you will support that resolution by your own professional organization to eliminate DDMs. And why is that? When I hear a reference to 1 or 2% of time being spent on assessments here tonight, I know that whoever came up with that number has not talked to teachers. I know that the tail wagging that dog is not being properly assumed and recognized. That it is the seepage out from these assessments into the school day that is cramping the style of teachers. We need time to talk as professionals about what assessments are working and how to use the assessments, even if they are worth using. And that conversation is not happening.
We're at time, Dr. Rendeshiva.
I won't read you the statement. You have it there in the BEU newsletter, and you'll have it here. But I will tell you that the issue of control includes seriously bargaining with teachers and giving them an effective voice in their buildings, not just an invitation to share their feelings and thoughts and hope something will happen with those. That hasn't been working.
Oh, sorry. Are you wrapping up?
We're looking for contract language. Thank you very much.
so much. Bob Miller. Thank you. Bob Miller. You have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Bob Miller. I'm a resident of Brookline, town meeting member from Precinct 8, and a teacher at the Heath School. And I just wanted to, I was actually struck by the China student presentation. And first of all, I appreciate the opportunity to stand here. You know, I also was putting that in the context of some of the things that Dr. Connolly said about the town-school partnership. And I think one point that I'd like to make, and I'll only make one, is that, you know, I was hoping for more of a teacher-school department, school committee partnership. And I think that one of the things that comes up that gets asked to me all the time is, well, you know, it's a money issue. And you know, I don't think that it is a money issue. I think that it's an education issue. And I think that, you know, there's Some things that cost money, some things that don't. But, you know, having been most of my career in the private sector, I can tell you that first of all, the people that I work with didn't go into the profession because they were looking for money. My son just graduated from college, and I can tell you that there's many professions that people are looking at because they're high paying. Teaching is not one of them. So the money is not what's gotten the teachers in Brookline upset. What's gotten the teachers in Brookline upset is that nothing affects a teacher more than their inability to do the best job they can do at teaching children. So what I would like to say is that, you know, even things that do cost money, you know, I guess the best analogy I can come up with is if you have a house, if your roof leaks, you have to spend the money. If the porch is broken or the steps are broken, you have to spend the money. And, you know, I think that teachers are saying, not pay us, they're saying, fix this house. And I think that's what we really need to do, not from one side or the other, but working together. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Miller. Ms. Geisbond? Oh.
I'm Toby Raybold. I'm on the list.
Okay.
But I'm asking to go first because I ran out of my daughter's 5th through 8th grade chorus concert to come here.
Kids come
Trying to
first.
get back to hear
Kids
the
come
end.
first. Please go,
Okay.
Ms. Raybold.
Thank you so much. I left because this is such an important topic and I wanted to lend my voice. Today I want to talk about communication. For months, parents and teachers have been making their opinions about the contract stalemate known. Parents have come to school committee meetings, sent letters, attended forums at the schools, signed petitions, put up yard signs, and so on. And just to be clear about what we want, we don't want the 80-part assessment that we get of our children at the fall conference. We don't want teachers to do a 1-hour assessment of every single child in their class in order to identify the few who need reading support. We don't want Brookline teachers to read scripts when they teach. We don't want the kindergarten teachers to do 18 hours of open response writing with their kindergartners. We do want the town to look at the workload for teachers and make sure they have time to prepare for class. We want the teachers to be relieved of some of the data entry and paperwork and meetings that they have now. We want the school committee to give the teachers what they want in the contract negotiations. We believe in the teachers. We believe they're qualified to make their own choices about how to teach. We believe the paraprofessionals deserve a living wage. And we believe that the Brookline teachers deserve respect. That is what we want and what we have been advocating for. And it's not just me. We have 785 people signed on to a petition I started to support the teachers. There's another petition supporting the teachers that has 140 signatures. I have not seen a single petition saying we support the school committee. Have you? I've seen dozens and dozens of yard signs on every street I drive around in Brookline. I have not seen one yard sign that says we support the school committee. I have been to the school committee meetings and heard many, many parents talk to you about how we want you to support the teachers and reduce their paperwork. I have not heard one person in any of these meetings stand up and say, this is how we want it done. We want you to stonewall the teachers. I saw that 75 town meeting members signed a petition urging you to support the teachers and uphold the values we cherish in our school. I did not see any petition of town meeting members urging you to stay the course. All I can conclude is that you will not listen to what parents are saying. Teachers have also tried to talk to you. Teachers gave many hours of presentation to the school committee detailing the extra burdens placed on them and how it impacts their ability to provide quality education for each student. It's no secret that teachers feel disrespected, devalued, and unheard. As a resident of Brookline, I'm embarrassed that we made them feel this way. Some people communicate with their feet. They walk out the door. The superintendent left, the high school headmaster's looking to leave, 6 K-8 principals have left or are leaving soon, not including Mr. Bott. Our beloved first grade teacher at Pierce is leaving after 32 years of teaching because he can no longer stand to teach with the burdens you are placing on him.
We're at time.
That is really sad. I don't know why you are not listening, and I think the parents and the teachers are highly qualified, and I don't know why you think that your 9 opinions are more important than the majority of parents and teachers.
Thank you, Ms. Geisbond.
Hi, I'm Lisa Geisbond. I'm, for a limited time only, a Brookline Public School parent. My baby is about to graduate from Brookline High. We came in 1998. I'm also the executive director of an organization called Citizens for Public Schools, and I'll be brief. You'll be happy to hear. I just want to talk about gratitude and respect. And I want to start out by saying that I do have tremendous gratitude and respect for the experience of having my children in Brookline's public schools all these years. And I also have gratitude and respect for the work of the school committee, the time, thought, and commitment that goes into this kind of public service. I genuinely do. But my deep, profound respect has to go to the teachers that have worked with my sons all these years, and a lot of them are here tonight, and they've been just life-changing for them. And my kids are adorable and lovely and intelligent, but not always easy or standard. And these teachers have connected with them. Bob's one. Jill Sifantus is here somewhere. A lot of them are here tonight, and a lot of them have won Caverly Prizes, and I've heard them praised for their work and their exceptional ability. And so I just don't understand why, when they stand up together and say that they feel demoralized and they feel that things need to change in order for them to continue to do the tremendous work that they do, that they're not being heard, and that there's not more effort to think creatively and beyond the idea of we don't have the money to really engage with these critical issues. And I agree with Jess that it's been an exciting time to see the discussions that have erupted in the community between parents and teachers and other people in town. So as I prepare to leave the school system, that's very exciting, but it's also kind of scary and poignant to think that I'm leaving at a time when these teachers who I love and respect are saying that they feel so demoralized. And I'm worried about that. And I don't want to go out with that worry hanging over me and my family. So that's all I want to say.
Thank you. Carol Schraft? There she is. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I want to say, first of all, that I am astonished to be here. I am here about a very small request that has grown to enormous proportions, an online petition that has 304 signatures on it, plus a hard copy petition that has 100 more signatures on it. And one of the parents here tonight has letters now from students are starting to join in on this. And that is a request to dedicate the Driscoll School Library to our retiring librarian, Amy Neal. I know that at the last school committee members meeting, several Driscoll teachers and parents spoke about all of the magical things that Amy Neal does and has done for her 37 years teaching in Brookline, so I'm not going to repeat that now. But what I do want to tell you is that when I came to Driscoll School as principal of the school in 1980, the space that is now the library was empty. The auditorium had been completely ripped out, and the new library was going in. The people who planned that library had a vision for it as the heart of the school, the center of school functions, and as the curriculum hub of the school, and they wanted it placed in the center of the school. In order to finance that, because they had a very limited budget, they were willing to let the auditorium go and the gymnasium go. So in order to finance that vision, two other functions of the school were essentially sacrificed. So I never really appreciated that vision. It wasn't my vision. It took a decade to get a theater built, and more time than that to get the tin can gymnasium replaced with a real gym. So, but that was their vision. Part of the reason is that I didn't think it was possible, that what they wanted wasn't going to be possible. But 17 years ago, 20 years into her teaching career, Amy Neal took over the library. And the reason that I believe it should be named for her was because she is the person who made the original vision for that space come true. She has been the force over the past decade. While there have been 4 principals at that school, she has been the consistent curriculum leader of that school. While there have been very few central office people who have actually visited the school and helped a large number of new teachers in their classrooms, she was the person who did that. When she took the library over 17 years ago, there were 10,000 books a year in circulation. There are now 34,000 books a year in circulation. I just want to, before I leave, say one word about the process and why I feel responsible for it. When the committee planning her retirement wanted to dedicate the library to her, I said, oh, it's very simple. Just email a member of the school committee, because it's kind of like a pro forma thing. 3 weeks went by, they received no response, and when they did, they were told that there was about the 2-year delay policy, but that the school committee had the discretion to change that. They were then told...
We wrap it up. We're way
okay,
past.
Just a couple more sentences. They were then told that they didn't use the correct procedure by taking this through the superintendent. Nobody told them that. So if they did something wrong in presenting this to you, it was, blame it on me.
Thank you. Thank you. Nancy Frame. Thank you. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Nancy Frayne, and I teach 2nd grade at the Devotion School. And I'm here to urge the school committee to work with the BEU to settle the teacher's contract. I'm particularly concerned about the exponential increase in non-teaching duties required of teachers. I've taught in the Brookline schools for more than 30 years, and in the beginning and the middle of those 30 years, I worked very hard preparing to teach children, teaching children, reflecting on teaching children, consulting with colleagues about children, and talking with families about children. It was a more than full-time job, but it was very satisfying. In the last number of years, I am working harder, longer, and faster because the work I'm required to do beyond the full-time teaching job has increased tremendously, including data collection, report writing with more than 80 items to be rated for every child, technology demands, new assessments, old assessments, email, consultations, creating my own assessments, a new teacher evaluation system, getting certified in retail, and I could go on, but I won't. Some of these things are fine and important, but they're crowding and displacing parts of the important work that you hired me to do. It's like a bucket that can only hold so much water, and when you add more water, some spills over the edges. I'm worried that what is spilling over the edge or being lost are the parts of my job that I'm the most passionate about: preparing to teach children, teaching children, reflecting on teaching children, consulting with colleagues about children, and talking with families about children. Thank you.
Thank you. Catherine Stewart? You have 3 minutes.
My name is Catherine Stewart. I'm a Brookline parent, a Runkle School parent, and also a taxpayer. And my questions are related to the budget for the fiscal year 2017. That budget calls for the creation of an Office of Strategy and Performance. The office will have an administrator and at least 6 additional staff. The budget describes the new department but does not say what it will cost. So how much will the new budget cost? What will the new budget do? What will the new office do? The language in the budget suggests that its function is to provide the superintendent with a data-driven management system, perhaps for evaluating teachers in schools through standardized tests. Please clarify. How much teacher time and administrator time will be required to generate the data that this new office will analyze? Have these indirect costs been factored into any budgetary analysis? Will the new department be asking for data associated only with state-mandated assessments, or will it also be imposing district-specific data gathering requirements on teachers and students? Have teachers been included in the design of the new department? Will they have a role in its future activities? What steps are being taken to ensure that the data collected by the new office will respect the privacy concerns of students and parents? How much of the direct and indirect cost of this new department will be coming from the override funds that were just passed? Was there anything in the material presented to the voters of Brookline that would have suggested that a significant portion of the override would go into funding a department of this nature?
And I didn't vote for that, by the way, in the override.
And lastly, the head of the new department appears to have been in place since last August, Ben Lummis, the Assistant Superintendent for Strategy and Performance. I would like to understand better the process through which Lummis was recruited and hired in advance of the creation of the department he appears destined to head. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Mr. Day, you have 3 minutes.
Okay. Hi, I'm Rich Day. I'm a parent of a 2nd grader and 4th grader at Driscoll, and they'll think I've gotten to get backstage at some sort of rock concert to be with you all tonight, so thank you very much for being here. I want to talk about Miss Neal in the library. If you'll be a little flexible with the time, I have the voices of some 3rd graders to share. I won't go through them all, just do 2 real quick and a little bit of my own thoughts. So first, have you ever worked somewhere for 37 years? Miss Neal has. Since she has worked here 37 years, the library has been a fun place to learn with Miss Neal here. She should get the library named after her. And in 1st grade, I was going to check out a book. I could not even read the cover. When she said, wait until 3rd grade to read it, I did wait until 3rd grade, and I finished all 19 books in the series. If she can help one student achieve their dream, she touched 10 more. This is why you should let the library be named after her. I hope you consider this. This is from Brooke. There was a lot of varied voices in the 3rd graders at Driscoll, so this is another one. Dear school committee members, Miss Neal has worked at the library for 37 years. She deserves a library named after her. 37 years is 20 times your stupid 2-year wait. Why wait 2 stinking years? We'll be fine if you bend the rule, right? In my opinion, 2 years is too long. When I'm in 5th grade, I'll say, OMG, they finally named the library after Miss Neal. And yes, I'm in 3rd grade, and I think it says Catherine maybe, and it says, there's a little a PS at the end, I hope you listen. So my own quick thoughts on Miss Neal and the library for my family. So for us, it's a centering spot for our routine in the mornings. We arrive early. Miss Neal always has the door open for us. It's a place for us to go in and sort of take a deep breath before the day begins. It's provided my children a sense of confidence in a universe for them to explore on their own. It's something that she has sort of shaped for them. And it's a safe place for them to be after school. And they've gotten that way from their connection with them. And that connection takes a lot of work on her half. I was trying to connect with her next week to go over some stuff. And she said, well, I'm here at 6:30, so come in anytime after that, kind of highlighting her dedication. Last night at the CPAC meeting, we heard a lot about the turnover across all ranks in the schools, from paraprofessionals all the way up through superintendent. And the negative impact that really has on the kids as they're getting used to one teacher or paraprofessional and then getting transitioned to another. And I think this is a perfect opportunity to celebrate what we really want in educators who work with our children, sort of that tenure and that desire to want to be here. But as we've been hearing, this request comes during a time when educators are not being valued. And it is becoming more and more difficult for educators, and as we heard, paras in particular, to imagine such a career in Brookline.
We're at time.
This is a simple gesture that can be extended to value a tremendous educator, or at a minimum, allow those that do value her to do so. And the Driscoll community would really like to understand when you guys are going to vote on this and give us some answers.
Thank you. Ivan Okay, thanks. Ivan Mercado. I can't really read this. I'm sorry. Can you spell it for me? I'm sorry.
E-R-C-A-D-O.
Mercado.
Mercado, yeah.
Okay, you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you for allowing us to speak here today. As a parent who recently moved to this community, in large measure because of the school system, it is disheartening, to say the least, to step into a situation where there's such a insidious, acrimonious labor dispute. A labor dispute that, according to all, has gone on beyond 2 years. The teachers are in a difficult bargaining position because they obviously can't go on strike. They can't take aggressive actions with regards to their employment. And at every turn, they're told that whatever they do is contrary to the reason why they became teachers. That if they do anything such as not going to field trips after the school year or helping the students with other extracurricular activities, they're bad teachers. They don't care about the children. As a parent, my daughter recently was going to go on a field trip to New York. The teachers are not going to go with the students. She decided that in support of the teachers, she was not going to participate in that field trip. Now, my daughter is affected by this labor dispute. And it's fair to say that I think more children, as this continues to drag out, will be impacted by this. You, as the school board, are our elected officials. It doesn't make any sense that when we write to you, and I've written to all of you, each and every one of you, I received one response. One response. And it was from Mrs. Stone. She responded. It's just difficult as a taxpayer to believe that our elected officials are not responsive to us as the citizenry. We don't know what your position is. I don't have a dog in the fight. I'm not a teacher. I'm not married to a teacher. I don't support. I carry the sign because I don't have your sign to carry. I don't know what your position is. Ms. Ditkoff, I asked you at a meeting at the Runkle School whether you had a matrix, since you have all of these matrix, to measure all of these things, that measured the additional time that teachers spent in collecting all of this data for the purposes of compensating them. In my employment, when I do additional work, I'm compensated. I would imagine the teachers also wish to be compensated. Do you calculate that? Is that calculated anywhere? And if it's not, then it should be. Because I think they have a right to be compensated. And when I was told what the paraprofessionals make in comparison with what the paraprofessionals make next door in Boston, I was aghast. When we are going around telling people that we live in Brookline, and Brookline has a wonderful school system, and we laud our school system, why?
We're at time. Thank you very much. Thank you. That's all that we have signed up for public comment. Is there anyone here who did not sign up but wishes to make public comment?
Yeah, I'd like to say something.
Sure. Go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Yeah, you might remember me. I was here last time talking about
I'll just state your name for everyone.
Dr. Walsh. My name is Marianne Taylor, and I work at the Driscoll School, and I'm one of the art teachers there. And as I was driving home last time, because I ran out of my 3 minutes, you know, I thought about what I wanted to say, and I'm so happy that I'm here and able to say that. What I wanted to say when I got cut off, I wanted to talk about how important it is for Driscoll, for the community of Driscoll, to be able to look at a picture of Amy Neal like that, and for her to be remembered in our community. And then I'm driving along and I'm thinking, God, that's just so unfair. You know, and I'm thinking, we make these allowances for administrators, but not for teachers. And so I'm a teacher and I'm driving along and I'm thinking, God, that just feels so lousy. You know, that there's like one set of rules. Then I'm driving along and I'm thinking, yeah, and you know, the meeting went over like a full half hour. I don't know if you remember me, but I was sitting over there with my hyperactive 7-year-old who was spinning around and around and around in the chair, you know, because we had to wait all this extra time to speak. And I remember somebody on the school committee said, you know, oh, there's something else I'd like to say. Do we have time? And they were given that time. You said, certainly. At that point, the meeting had gone over about a half hour. And I thought, well, so there's time for them to go over, but there's not time for us. And again, it went back to that rule again, that we have a separate set of rules for, you know, the school committee, administrators, and it feels pretty lousy as a teacher, I've got to say. So, you know, I had another question. I was wondering if you were planning a plaque for Dr. Lupini. Oh, well, if that ever comes up, I, as a teacher, as an educator, I would like to be informed, and I'd like to have the chance to vote on that, okay? And I remember one time, Bill Lupini, Amy Neal, who's worked in our community for 36 years, like a dog, okay? She's not only there at 6:30, she's on her computer until midnight, okay? You have never seen a teacher work so hard. And she approached Dr. Lupini because she had some concern, maybe it was a little piddly thing about the library, but you know, that's our lives as teachers. It's a lot of little things that make it impossible to do our job. And you know what she was told? She was told, I fly at 10,000 feet. And that's how I feel now as an educator. I feel like we're way down here and you're way up there at 10,000 feet. And it feels pretty lousy. Thank you.
Wishes to make public comment? Go ahead, just state your name for everyone.
I'm Lauren Kelly Talanian, and I'm a kindergarten teacher at Pierce. I wasn't planning to speak tonight, but I feel compelled after being here. First of all, I just wanted to speak to assessments in kindergarten. My kids are 5 and 6 years old, and I know that you reported on a small list, but I wanted to add to that list in terms of my experience as a classroom teacher. My conference report for my kids has 86 boxes to check for each of my students, plus a section for comments. I would say that I spend about an hour on each report times 22 kids twice a year. Fall and spring literacy and math assessments that I do so that I can fill out those conference reports. Those are 30 minutes per student. Work sampling in kindergarten that we fill out in the fall and spring. This gets sent to the state. I'm not sure what happens with it, but we get money, I've heard, as a result of it. The math, Boya and Oya, I know that Dr. Connolly, you said that it was a whole class assessment, but in kindergarten it's actually individual, and it takes me 30 to 45 minutes per student. No, I would say 30 minutes, twice a year. BAS testing, 30 to 45 minutes per student, plus an extra 20 to 30 minutes per child to fill out the paperwork that goes with it, plus all of the times that I report that data to the district. We also have been getting a ton of new literacy and curriculum initiatives that are really time-consuming for us as teachers, and very little training. So I spend my afternoons reading through new curriculum to prepare to teach what I'm expected to teach. All of these things taken together require an incredible amount of teacher time, both away from and outside of the classroom. And this is all on top of the constant informal assessment that teachers use every day to inform instruction. Teachers know that when assessment is at its best, its purpose is to help teachers know where each child is as an individual so that we can design instruction that will help move them forward as learners. However, teachers in Brookline see a huge shift in the philosophy of education that is driving the district. As we continue speaking out and raising concerns, I hope that you know that we're using our voices to tell you that we're worried about that we're moving further and further away from the philosophy of teacher-driven, child-centered, developmentally appropriate practice that meets the needs of each of our students and allows us the autonomy and judgment to teach in a way that we as professional educators know is best for our kids, and that was once the bedrock of Brookline Public Schools. When we focus only on standards-based, data-driven curriculum, we often lose sight of what are some of the most important pieces of school because they are not quantifiable. Children being excited to come to school each day, developing a deep love of learning, having confidence in one's abilities as a learner, strengthening social emotional skills, creating deep relationships with peers and teachers, and being a part of a community of learners. Teachers have only so much time in a day, and as we continue to tack on more data, more paperwork, more standardized instruction, it's important that we as a community ask, at what expense does this come?
We're at time.
What are we losing, and where is the opportunity for teachers and parents to be a part of the conversation? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who... Can you state your name for everyone?
Janice McEwen. I'm a paraprofessional at Runkle. I have been in Brookline 2 years and teaching altogether 5 years. I spent over 20 years in the corporate world. I care very much about public education, about children. I work really hard for not very much pay. And one of the things I've heard as a reason, and I hope it's not true, is that you can get paras. People want to work here. I really hope that's not true. We work hard, we're part of the team, and we deserve fair pay. Thank you.
State your name.
Yes. Hi. I didn't prepare to speak tonight, but I'll try to be brief. My name is Ludovica Mottura. I am a parent of fourth, third, and kindergartner at Pierce School. I come originally from Italy, and I'm very proud of being here today. I came to the U.S. a long time ago, and I chose this school district because of the community and the great schools. My field of work is one in which we look at how companies become better organizations. And what I observe in my field of work is that great organizations are able to tap into their people's discretionary energy, and their employees are engaged. How do they have engaged employees is by granting their employees the autonomy to really fulfill their work on a daily basis with as much discretion as possible. And you do that when you have talented employees such as the Brookline teachers. And so I am disheartened to see that that energy may be going away because there's less autonomy. The other observation, when we think about what effective organizations do, is they get the balance right between what kind of the independence of the front line and what happens at the center, and how the center decides on policies, standards, and procedures that get issued to the front line, if you wish. You could consider the school committee sort of the center and the teachers the front line, if you wish. And that balance is tricky because the school committee or the center has a lot of wisdom looking across several school situations and beyond, maybe, national data to really advise. But the front line is there on a daily basis. That's where the rubber hits the road. And ignoring the voice of the front line is often what delivers ineffective organizations and demoralized employees. Thank you very much.
Anyone else who wishes to make public comment? Okay, thank you all for coming. Thank you for spending your evening here. Clearly you have other places you can be. You've definitely raised a wide range of issues, and I hope you do understand that your voices are important, as evidenced by the fact that we've spent nearly an hour on this topic, because it's very important to us to give you space at this meeting. So thank you for coming. We're going to move on. We're going to move on to our next agenda item. If anyone wishes to say, you're welcome to. Our next agenda item is the interim superintendent's report. Can we close one of the doors anyway? I think they're going to close it. I'm not entirely sure. Okay. Dr. Connolly.
The superintendent's report tonight is a few updates I think are very, very important. The first one is Today's Students, Tomorrow's Teachers, TSTT program. Brookline has been a part of this regional program for many years, and just recently the regional office here in the Northeast has disbanded, and the Brookline School Department took a position that they were committed to these students and wanted to complete this program until the current students involved in the program at the high school graduate, which is next year, June of 2017. I'm told that in prior years, there's always been a very, very enjoyable, very interesting, worthwhile presentation at the end of the year made by the students and the two teacher coordinators. Unfortunately, the last two meetings, our May 19th meeting and tonight's meeting, they had conflicts, and we're hoping that June 16th, we're kind of running out of time, but they are going to make an effort to be here on June 16th to once again give us a highlight of what's happened this year. But in the meantime, just in case that does not happen in 2 weeks, Mr. Cawthorn and Ms. Sergeant Linder have presided the committee with a kind of an update. Malcolm's was given to you mid-year, and Ms. Sergeant Linder's presentation just gives us an update as of a few weeks ago. And the program currently has six grade 11 students, And there have been a number of activities this year. They've had monthly meetings since October. Topics covered have included reviewing Brookline Public Schools structure and compare it to Boston, watching the Chicago Netflix doc series on how public education intertwines with the government and police department, private businesses. They've talked about review individual student transcripts. They've discussed test schedules for grade 11, discussed summer plans and teaching-related opportunities. One student will work for the Writers Incorporated at Simmons College this summer. They've discussed different educational positions and qualifications. And other activities, they've conducted a field trip to Boston University on May 25th, took an official BU tour, met with students from the School of Education, met with former headmaster Bob Weintraub in his current role as educational leader and director, met with the Royal Senior, met with the
Shanyeka Hall,
current BU freshman in a SS graduate, class of 2015. Students were invited to a Diversity Matters open house, and the list goes on and on. So this program that is now just a local one high school program continues to function very well. They're very committed to these kids, and I hope that we will have a chance to have the students in to talk about their experiences this year. The whole purpose of this program is to give students an awareness of the teaching career with the hopes that once they go off to college, they may come back as teachers here in Brookline. And I just can't say enough positive things about the two teachers involved, Malcolm and Janae. They do a wonderful job. They're very committed to this program, and they truly want this program to continue through next year. And we do have money in the FY17 budget to allow that to happen. Number 2 is the senior class graduation schedule. Graduation day is Sunday, June 5th. Graduation ceremonies will begin at 1 p.m. on Cypress Field, or in case of rain, in the gymnasium. The day begins with the scholarship breakfast at 9 a.m. in the quadrangle. In case of poor weather, the breakfast is in the cafeteria. This is an annual event, something I've never heard of before. I can't wait to see it. This is an annual event where the scholarship donors sit with the senior class recipients and get to know each other during this breakfast. What a lovely experience. I can't wait to see it. There's also a 50-year reunion class reception in the MLK room from 12 to 12:45, just before graduation. And another very special tradition that I think is just, I'm anxious to see it, and I think I commend you for it. The 5th reunion class members process into the graduation ceremony with the class of 2016, so they're a part of the process. What a lovely tradition. At 12:45, we meet at the MLK room to line up for graduation procession. The superintendent, headmaster, school committee chair, and co-chair, and our graduation speakers are at the front of the procession, followed by the faculty and then our class of 2016 graduates. School committee chair and vice chair present diplomas on stage to each graduate, who then shakes hands with the headmaster, superintendent, and other BHS administrators. I'm looking forward to Sunday's activity, and there's so many unique activities and traditions that Brookline has. I'm anxious to see. Any comments about that? Very good. 3, the ninth school, we've already covered that, and that is an attachment, those very important dates. We have a very busy 2-week schedule with a ninth school and high school expansion. We've also talked about the testing earlier tonight. Now, what I think is the highlight of my superintendent's report tonight. I'm pleased to announce that we've now completed the search for a new deputy superintendent for teaching and learning. The search was successfully completed last week when Nicole Gittens accepted my offer of appointment and signed her 3-year contract. As you know, this search produced 47 applications, of which 8 were selected for interviews, and 2 candidates being selected for second-round interviews as finalists. Nicole Gittens, as our preferred finalist, also had an opportunity to meet and interact with most curriculum coordinators and sports staff associated with the Office of Teaching and Learning. What we did is similar to what the school committee did with the superintendent finalists. We had, in this room, we gathered all of the system-wide coordinators and directors and people directly associated with teaching and learning. They had a chance to meet with the finalists and interact, and it was a very worthwhile experience. The 12-member search committee, the 8-member finalist interview committee, and the teaching and learning staff all expressed absolute strong support for Nicole Gittens. Reference checks to the Boston Public Schools also proved to be extremely positive. Nicole Gittens comes to Brookline after serving as a highly successful headmaster at the John D. O'Brien School of Mathematics and Science and assistant headmaster of the Urban Science Academy in Boston. Prior to her 11 years in administration for the Boston Public Schools, Nicole was a mathematics teacher at Cambridge Virgin Latin School in Cambridge from 1997 through 2005. Nicole will be on board as of July 1. She's looking forward to transitioning. Jennifer will be available to transition with her. In fact, they may even connect before July 1, but clearly there'll be some transition opportunities this summer for Nicole and Jennifer. Again, I think this also demonstrates the importance of an inclusive process involving many, many people in the community, parents, teachers, administrators, and I just can't emphasize enough that we clearly have the total consensus that we found the best candidate for the job, and that's complete consensus on that. Deputy Superintendent for Student Services, our search committee is in the process of interviewing the candidates. We had 30 applicants. The interviews are ongoing. We'll finish the interviews on this Friday with 2 candidates. We hope to then identify at least 1 or 2 finalists to interview next week. We would then do a reference check, and we hope that the search for the Deputy Superintendent for Student Services can be completed in the next 2 weeks. I would like to be able to present the candidate at our June 16th meeting to the school committee. We are currently planning to invite all of our newly hired administrators to the school committee's June 16th meeting to meet the school committee and meet the community by way of local TV, but also to give us an opportunity to thank our search committees for the time and energy they put into these very, very important searches. Related transition efforts, we have currently made plans for Leslie Ryan Miller, who was hired about a month or so ago as our Senior Director for Learning, Elementary Teaching and Learning, to be in Brookline on June 15th and June 16th to begin meeting with math, ELA, science, social studies, and world language coordinators. And as I mentioned, it's further planned for Jennifer and Nicole to get together this summer also. I think our search is now down. We've done the principals successfully. We have one of our deputy superintendents in place. The other one is ongoing, and we've hired a vice principal. And I hope to be able to bring to the school committee all of these very important administrative positions for you to meet them on the 16th, and to thank these search committees for the time they put into these successful efforts. I truly believe this is a celebration, and everyone has ownership for these individuals.
Questions?
By all means, comments or questions?
Ms. Stone?
I think it's inappropriate, Joe, every time you give us one of these reports, not for us to just say, wow.
Thank you.
This is, I mean, it is an extraordinary time in terms of the number of very important high-level positions that you've had to manage in terms of transition, in terms of searches, and that they have gone so well and yielded such extraordinary appointments, I think is just a huge credit to you, and I can't imagine what we would have done without you, so thank you so very much. I know you will give credit to all of the search committees, appropriately so, but the leadership really matters in this case. And
thank you very much. What satisfies me the most is the fact that there is such ownership and involvement in the process, and it truly has been a celebration when these people are identified. Everyone who's been involved in the process celebrates the selection. that shows the support the community has for these positions. And that's very important starting a new position, to have that support and have the community feel they've been part of the process and they have involvement in the selection of these candidates. Thank you very much for saying that.
I'm also glad to see that Nicole is yet another person who started out in Brookline and is coming back to Brookline. That's really great.
Nicole did her student teaching here and was a Medco coordinator many years ago, so it's very good.
I think more people want to say congratulations and thank you. Mr. Chang, hang on a sec.
So I think I had the great fortune to have known Dr. Connolly since 2008 at Runkle School when we needed him desperately. And since then, he has dazzled and amazed many, many other schools in Brookline, and now including the school committee. So I think the process is important, but you are way too humble about the vision, the leadership, and just the steady hand and the impeccable judgment you have with regards to people and organization. And with such off-the-chart EQ, it really gives me a lot of comfort and confidence that the people that surface to the top and are selected are the highest quality. So thank you.
Appreciate that.
Scott?
One of the things that I find impressive is the way you make everyone feel they are a part of what you do and are partner in making decisions. It's really a wonderful model of collaborative leadership, and I think that it is where we in Brookline need to be at this point and need to move into the future. The other thing is, you have the best nature of anybody I ever saw. I would be getting so grumpy over all the things I had to do in the extra time. But you know, it's just, you always seem calm and happy, and it's such a pleasure to watch that.
Thank you very much. Let me repeat something I said earlier today. We had our last parent leadership meeting this morning, and all the PTO leaders and school council parent leaders. And they also said some very nice things that were very much appreciated. But I told them that from the moment I came to Brookline back in 2008, all right, I have felt your support, and to a principal or a superintendent, that's critically important. You know, when you have to make these difficult decisions, you know, to know you have the community's support really means a great deal. And these many, many years in these different roles, I've never felt that for one moment I didn't have people's support and encouragement, and that has helped all of us be successful. You know, but clearly, as you said a moment ago, it's been a team effort. And when we talk about these 12 and 13 and 14 member search committees, these people are putting in hours and hours and hours, and they're making it work. They're the ones that make it work. But thank you very much. Well, this was supposed to be a celebration among Nicole, and thank you very much. Item number 6, just quickly, the parent, staff, and parent and staff surveys are back. They've been shared with the building principals. We're going to make a presentation at the June 16th meeting, but because it's so late in the year, we're going to have the principals on June 14th at their last faculty meeting share the results with their staff, give the staff a chance to think about it over the summer, and early in the fall, each school will take up the impact of these surveys on school goals for next year. You'll hear more about that at our next meeting. And finally, kindergarten enrollment registrations. The attached page, enrollment data, is a status report on next year's kindergarten registration numbers as of May 31st. It was that a couple days ago. The kindergarten enrollment numbers, which now include approved METCO and materials-free enrollments, stands at 521 students as of May 31st. At this time last year, we had 564 students, so we're still lagging behind by about 40 students. But the numbers below, I think, are very, very important. These are now that we've assigned the students to the schools, including the Metco students and the materials fee students, we now have where we stand right now at each school. And so, for example, Baker currently has 72 students, and they have a max, if you're talking 22 students as a max, we'd like to be lower than that, but we have room for 88. So you can see that the Baker has room for growth over the next couple of months during the summer. Devotion's at 76. They have a max, hopefully, of no more than 25 classes to 20, so they have room for growth. Driscoll's at 58. They're getting kind of close to that max of 66. Heath, 44. They have plenty of room at Heath for a max of 66, 3 sections of 22. Lawrence, 67 versus 88. Lincoln, 60 versus 66. Pierce, 84 versus 110. That's 5 sections, 22. And the Runkle, 56 versus 66. So there's a couple of schools that are really getting close to their max number. The others have plenty of growth. And the 31 kindergarten classes we have, it gives us the capacity to have 660 students enroll and have us still be close to that 21 to 22 average class size. We'd like to be lower. And so I think at this point in time, I think the 31 classes we have is the appropriate number of kindergarten classes. Office of Student Affairs is doing a terrific job balancing the enrollments, as you can see. This is a terrific effort on their part, and things are going well. I think that was the end of it. Thank you very much.
Terrific. Thank you. Any questions for Dr. Connolly? A full report, as always. Never a dull moment with you. Very exciting. Okay. Our next agenda item is school committee actions, appointment to the various EDCO positions that we belong to. So I have, so we're going to vote on one of these. There are two that are docketed. One is the appointment to the EDCO Collaborative Board of Directors for 2016-2017. Ms. Charlepsky has served as our current representative. She is very deeply steeped in the EDCO world, knowledgeable about their evolution, history, services, that sort of thing. And so since she's not here, I would like to place her name into nomination to serve again. Excellent. There's unanimous seconding. She's out of the country. She did know that we were going to do this to her. But by universal acclaim, perhaps we can let her know. All right, fine. So there's a motion seconded by Mr. Chang. Any discussion? No. All right. All those in favor? Excellent. So we have a appointment to the EDCO Collaborative Board of Directors for the 2016-2017 year. The second item is the appointment to the EDCO Collaborative Advisory Council for 2016-2017. That position is historically held by the superintendent or his or her designee. Since Ms. Charlepsky did not have a chance to talk through this agenda item with either Dr. Connolly or Mr. Bott for next year, if it's okay with everyone, we don't actually need to, we checked in with EDCO, we don't need to vote on this one tonight. And so if it's okay with everyone, we will postpone this vote until a date after which we have had those conversations, where Ms. Charlepsky has had those conversations. I would also just encourage both Dr. Connolly and Mr. Bott to check in with Dr. Schmuckler, Dr. Fisher-Mueller, other staff who have experience with EDCO to see who an appropriate person might be, and we will take your recommendation, pretty much. Yeah.
Madam Chair, can't we just vote to appoint the superintendent or his, in this case, designee, and leave it to the superintendent to make that decision?
Does anyone accept superintendents go to this thing? Go to the advisory council? Do we know?
I have not been.
You haven't been? Jennifer, do you know? Well, we don't really know.
So I'm comfortable leaving it in the hands of our incoming superintendent.
It would. It would have to be the same person at all meetings. Okay. Ms. Coyne, we asked.
Okay.
Yeah, we asked as to when we need to do this, and Edco said, yeah, September would be fine.
So the school committees needs to appoint a person, can't just appoint, can't just sort of punt to the superintendent,
That's an
essentially.
excellent question for Ms. Charlepski when she comes back,
Unfortunately, yes.
which is why we're not voting on it tonight.
If I may.
Oh, Dr.
jump in.
Connolly.
As you know, EDCO is in the process of considering some structural changes, and I think it'd be very important for Helen to speak with Andrew and discuss where EDCO is, and this may be something Andrew would want to be part of, because it may impact Brookline. So I think it makes sense to table it until we have more information.
I completely agree. I was just suggesting that we could move to let Andrew take care of it. But if we can't, and we don't know the answer to that question either, so
Yeah.
let's table it.
We don't even know if it has to be a superintendent, if everyone else around the table is superintendents. I think that's the other piece, which is to what extent is there flexibility there?
I've served on many of these collaborative boards, and it's usually all superintendents.
Yeah, so let's hold on to this one. Okay. That's the end of our agenda. Do we have any new business? All right, seeing none, we do have need for an executive session for purpose 2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-aligned personnel, the principals, and for purpose 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining, Brookline Educators Union, Units A, B, and paras. So I will move that. Is there a second? Second, Ms. Stone. Ms. Coyne, can you pull the committee?
Yes.
Yes. Excellent, and we will not reconvene in open session after executive session. Thank you all very much.